Hello everyone, this is the third stream of the rg3d game engine, and today we are gonna start making the curve editor, which I was planned to do on the previous stream, but I was tired and yeah, I decided to continue working on the stuff I was working on the previous stream off stream, and it suddenly took me like few days to finish the work I was planning to do on stream. And yeah, I didn't have any time on that stream to finish everything. So yeah, today we are gonna making the curve editor. So let's see. At first, let's see how the result of the previous work looks like. Here's the restyled inspector, which is kind of looking nice, and it's like much better and less cluttered. So what is the curve editor? I probably posted the link on Reddit about it a few months ago, I think. Back in the day, I did make the widget for curve editor, but there is still no editor for it. So by editor, I mean a thing which allows you to... Basically, it's a window in the editor where you can drag points, add points, and so on, and it will also be done every change will be done through the command stack, which is a common pattern in editors when every action will be recorded, and you can undo or redo your actions. So let's take a look at this command stack. So let's move some objects like that, and we can undo and redo. So basically, the new editor, the new curve editor, will be a separate window inside this window, and it will use the command stack, the command stack to store the commands. And it will work as a part of the editor. So let's start making it by creating a separate module for that. I'm less tired today, so the stream should go much better. All right, so where we should create it? Let's see. Probably maybe in here, maybe in utils, or maybe we'll just create a new module in the root. So let's do that, and it will be, oh my god, the curve editor. So, and we'll start by adding the module in, where is it? Is this the main, right? Yeah, right in here. Pub, no, it shouldn't be pub. Why all these modules are public? There's not a library. Why did I do that? All right, so let's see. So what do we need to do? At first, we need to create a struct like curve editor window. Then we should add an implementation. Curve editor window. In here, we should make a new function called new. And the first parameter will be the build context. The build context is a thing that allows you to basically create widgets using builders the respective builders of each type. So we'll see in a minute what does that mean. So it will return the handle to not the handle, it will return itself, and in here it will return nothing for now. And we'll start by creating a window. This is not an operation system window. This is just a window that like the internal window of the UI system. So let's create that window builder. New, as always, widget builder. New build context. All right, let's see. This everything what it does is just creates an empty window that can be dragged and so on. So I think we can also store a handle to that window. I'm curious why I have re-exported all of that stuff. It's pretty weird. Let's see. Said I have a pop view somewhere. Let's see. Pop views? No. Interesting. All right. And in here it will be a window. Now we need to create an instance of this Curvature window. So to do that, we'll go into the editor. We'll add the curve editor in here. There will be a single instance for now, but nothing stops us from creating multiple instances of the curve editor window. So just for simplicity and so to not spend too much time on it, we'll create a single instance. So then we will go in here and basically create an instance in here. Later, new context, like so, and store an instance in here. Curvature. So let's see what it will be doing. It should be an empty window, and yeah, it also this is quite interesting. I removed the pop modules and it started to give me warnings. So yeah, that's the empty window of the curvature of the future curvature, of course. And let's start filling it. And to fill it, we need to call with content. Every window builder has a single method with content, which allows you to define any content you like. It can be any widget of any complexity. In our case, this widget will be Curvature. Curve editor widget. Curvature builder, right? So the widget builder, as usual, you in here the build context, voila. And so now we should take a look what Curve Editor Builder accepts. It accepts a curve that we will be editing. It accepts it by value because this entire widget, which is pretty huge, and it is not a single module. It's a few modules. It holds the state by itself. So what we will be doing is we'll be modifying the curve instance inside the curve editor, and the curve editor will send us the message. Where is it? Yes, the message called sync. So in every our action, for example, we start dragging a key on the field, and when we release the button, the mouse button, it will send us the sync event, the message. So, and at that point, we will create a command which will hold the new state of the curve. So basically, the commands will store the history of modifications of our curve. So once we stop editing the curve, we can like click save, and the edited curve will be saved into the place we want. So let's continue with the window. I think we should expand this by using a grid builder. I want to create a grid which will basically have 2 rows and 1 column. So 2 rows will look like this row and this row, or maybe like a few panels stacked one after another. So the grid, as usual, we'll create it like so, build like so, add few rows. So the first row in here, we'll create this as a stretch. We want it to take all the space available, and the last row we will have it like with fixed height, and the fixed height is the fixed row is for buttons. We will have a few buttons in there. One button will be an OK, and the other will be cancel. So we want to like clicking OK will force the editor to save the curve, and clicking the cancel will of course revert our changes and forget about them. So in here we will do this and add the column. Add column. Our column should be stretch, because we want it to stretch to a window, to the Windows how is it called, client region. I think it's called like that. So in here we want our grid to have a child, and our first child will be our curve editor. We also want to have a handle to the curve editor, so to catch messages from it. So in here we'll have something like this. I really like this trick when you're defining a variable like that without initializing it, and in here we can do this equals, and in here will be curvature like that, and it will be initialized. And also in here we'll do this as usual, and curvature in here. So next we should define where the curvature will be located, and it will be located on the first row and the first column. Of course, everything starts from 0, and all will be zeros. In here, we should add a new widget for buttons. Our buttons will be located inside a stack panel. Stack panel will like stack objects one after another, like in here, but also it can stack objects horizontally. So like maybe this, this, and this, and it will stack it in a row, in a single row. So to do that, we'll create a widget builder, build context. For those who wonder which GUI library I'm using, I'm using the rg3d UI. It's a standard library in the engine UI library, and it's a custom library. It like was written maybe at the moment I started writing the engine, so it's quite mature, and it has like tons of widgets, which all of which you can see in the editor. So yeah, that's was a short introduction of the library. And in here, we will create a stack panel, and orientation of the stack panel will be horizontal. By default, it have vertical orientation, so like it stacks an object one after another, and but for our purposes it isn't enough, so we need to lay out everything horizontally. And here we want to create a child. Again, our child will be button, and we also have few buttons in here. So let's start from doing this, build as usual. As you can see, everything here has a fluent structure. So you can see like the window has content, the content is grid. A grid has like few rows, one column, and each cell in the grid has their own children, and so on. So the button itself is stored inside the stack panel builder, and so on. So in here, we should create the button with text, and text will be, I think, on the right side we should have cancel. Right, and also we can do this, and here we'll have OK button. Right, so also we want to have the window some initial size. To do that, we'll go the widget build, the width, and in here we will have something like maybe 400, and height maybe 300. I don't know, something like that. Right, so I think that's pretty much it, and we can start and see what we will have. It should be a window with like empty space and two buttons at the bottom. Almost. This happened because I forgot to set correct row and column on the widget builder of stack panel builder. So in here it should have row 1 and on column 0. This is not a mandatory, but usually it looks much better when you define in a row and a column. By default the column is 0, but it looks much nicer when you have it's like a coordinates. This is on Y, this is on X axis. So let's try again. It should now be laid out correctly. A few moments, and yep. This is our curvature. As you can see, the widget itself, it already pretty functional, and yeah, I spent a lot of time writing it, and unfortunately I did that off stream. So I started doing streams quite recently, so what we'll be doing, we'll basically wrap the widget and create the infrastructure in the editor to be to like edit curves, save them, like and so on. Maybe we will also do some modifications to the widget itself, but that depends. I'm pretty sure that I will stream for an hour and a half, maybe some more, but yeah, that's the usual amount of time, because I'm becoming pretty tired at the end of the day. So yeah. So now we also want the window to have a title, because yeah, unnamed window looks kind of strange. And in here we want this to have a title with a text. You can also have title with an image or any other widget. It does not have a strict conditions, maybe not conditions, like you get the point. So and here we want to define maybe something like that. We also want in future to have something like this, maybe a curve dot bin or something else. So it should also print the title of, maybe not title, but the path to the file. So what we will also do next is to correctly position the buttons. We want them to be on the right side of the window, and on to make them be laid out on the right side, we want to call with horizontal alignment. Horizontal alignment, right. Okay, so we also want the buttons to have even size. They should be equal, because right now OK button is much smaller than the cancel button, because the cancel button has the much bigger content. The cancel is wider than OK, and yeah, we also want this to have width, maybe with some fixed amount, maybe some 100 in here and in here. So also we could put this block of code into a separate function like create button, but I'm pretty fine with that, so maybe that's okay. So let's see what we'll have in just a moment. All right, it's starting to look much nicer. It has a curvature title. It is like having two buttons, cancel, OK. They are not doing anything right now, so we want to add a functionality to this editor. We also want the window, the curvature, maybe to be a model. We don't want have the ability to like forget about this window, something like in here, and then do something in there. I'm pretty sure that it should be model, but we'll see maybe at the end of the stream what is the best solution for that. So the buttons, yeah, the buttons looks kinda okay, but we also want to add some margin to them, because it will look even nicer with that. And here we can just define a margin and do similar thing in here. So the margin will add a space around buttons, and they won't be looking as the like one thing. They will be separated and look much nicer. So this is pretty much the my workflow, how I'm designing things in the editor and in the other places. I have pretty much the same process for the other UIs, like you've maybe seen in the REST extruder or maybe stationary patterns. This uses all the same code, because you can restyle all of those widgets, and you can create a UI for any kind of games. So what you see in here are also applicable to any other solution you are working on, and so on. So every project, I mean. And just a second, my mouth is dry. Also, so back on track. We also want these buttons to do some work, and in here we can do something like this. Cancel, and in here it will be this and this, and also we can use this nice trick to create shortcuts for our variables. By variables I mean the handles of our control elements, our widgets, and like so. All right, so now we have handles stored in these variables, and now we can start writing some logic finally. So to do that, we probably should have something like this. Handle UI message. It will be Gravin's mutable self as mutable, and it also will be accepting the message, UI message. I'm pretty curious. Why do I have why are those already imported? I'm curious. Why it happens? Because there is no pub reducers in here. Maybe it's some feature that I am not aware about. But let's move them from create to Gui. All right, it's faster to re-import them. So right, let's see. And we also want to grab the engine. Engine as mutable. We will modify the state of the engine, and basically we'll modify the state of the UI by listening to messages that are coming from UI, and yeah, we'll see that in a second. In here, you want to check the origin of the message. So every widget can send messages in the like generic queue, and you can extract those by polling messages, and you can like respond to every message that comes from widgets. So for example, when we click in a button in here, it creates a message. So the message is like very simple. It's like click. Where is that? The click message. And it also has a content, but that's another story. So in here, we want to handle like few buttons, and those few buttons will be our cancel, else if, message destination, self. Okay, so both, maybe not both, but these two branches will share the same logic mostly, but it also will be some difference between them. So both of these branches will close the window, the curvature. So let's do that. Maybe we should do a separate method. Close itself. It also does not need to be a mutable self, but it's convenient way of defining a function that doing some job, not returning a value. So in here will be engine mutable borrowing, and in here what we'll be doing is sending a message back. So we listened to a message, and that message was a button click, and we want to respond on it by sending another message, and that another message will be window message. That window message will be closed, and we will be sending that message to the window, the curvature window, and we also should specify the direction. What direction of the message means is that it defines whether the message comes from the UI, from the internals of the UI as a response to some action, or it comes from it should maybe it's confusing, like, is it sent from UI or to UI, I should say. So and yeah, as you can see, there are two options, from and to widget. In the majority of cases, you're interested in the to widget, because you are telling the user interface library to do some action. So you want it to accept something, and it will accept something only if the direction of the message is to widget. Right? So let's see. In here, we should go close engine, and similar thing in here, and it should compile now, and we will see the result in a second. Why it has so many warnings? Right, that's for another time. And yeah, let's try it out. It's not working. Guess why? Yeah, because we're not calling this one. There is no magic. We should call this. And we'll do that. Where is that? Yeah, we have the the huge main, like, and not entry point, however it could be called entry point, where the editor handles all the messages. So in here, basically from where it called, like from poll UI messages, and poll UI messages called from two places, but we are interested in like only this one, and this one is basically the like game loop. It's that simple. It like extracts the message one by one by polling it from the command queue, and yeah, it's processing everything like in a series of calls, and those those handlers can also do some other handlers and so on. So in here we want to like you can see there's pretty huge amount of code, but we can probably put that in here, but maybe not, because yes, it has this one, and this branch It actually could be refactored to move that outside, to have two sections, because this branch handles everything that modifies, or maybe not modifies, but related to current open scene. So in here, we want to call self-curvature dot handle your message, and here the message, and in here we want this and run. All right, let's see comments. All right, yeah, I'm trying to yeah, let me read the comment first. I'm very interested in your engine, but I'm still trying to figure out how to use it properly. Yes, I'm trying to fix that by writing a book, but yeah, my time is limited. I'm trying to find a balance between writing the engine, writing the book, and I'm pretty much alone. So there are like many contributors that do an amazing job, but yeah, I'm the main contributor, and so like I have all the knowledge about this engine, but to share it with other people, I need to spend like few months of hard work, and those few months should be dedicated to writing only the book. So because there's crazy amount of stuff that should be described, and yeah, it's like enormous amount of time. It will take enormous amount of time. So yeah, I will definitely continue working on the cheat book, and like I was kind of busy with that restyling of the inspector, so I'm trying to like find a balance, like work maybe few days on the book, then work few days on the engine, but sometimes I get stuck on the engine, maybe the editor, like we see now, and yeah. So that being said, I will try to create a book, an awesome book. So let's see what the buttons will be doing right now. All right, cool, it's working. But once we close the editor, we don't have an ability to open it. So there are a few options that can be done to open the editor. We could either have this window as a separate editor that could be called like from a separate menu, how it called, menu button, and the editor itself can have a separate menu and other stuff. Or we could also create how it should be called, maybe not create, but open the editor when we want to edit some property that have like how it should be called, a function that defines how parameter changes over time, or maybe other parameter. So like you've maybe seen how it works in Unity, game engine, Unity engine curve. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, something like that, where you have a parameter that changes over time or some other value, but it also has some complex dependency, like complex function that defines the parameter. So yeah, and to like edit that, as you can see, the Unity has like where maybe in here, editing curves. Nope, not in here. That's the animation editor, but let me describe that without a picture. It will have a button near the property when you can like click it, and it will open the editor, and you'll be able to edit the value. Let's check the comments. I will say your engine is gearing up to be the simplest and easiest to use overall, though. It's so easy and incremental. Yeah, it does. I'm trying to promote the engine, but it's like in shadow of other engines, and I'm not sure why. Maybe I'm just cursed, or the engine is cursed. Maybe I'm just not putting enough effort to promote the engine. Who knows? Like, so. Yeah, back on track. So let's see. Yes, we can't have an ability to open the editor, but we want to open the editor. So in here, I probably I'm fine with putting another button in here in the utils, so to open the editor. So to do that, we'll create another function and call it open. It's that simple. And we will send here an open message, but we also maybe want to open it as model. Yeah, the model probably should be fine. Why? Ah, right. Probably I forgot. Yeah, there is a third argument that can indicate that we want the window to be centered once it opens. And we also want it to be centered, but that can be an issue in future, because when you click in the open something, you expecting the editor to be at the previous position when you close it. What we want to do now, we want to call this method, and to do that, we want to go in the menu, and the menu is located in here, and we want to put in the utils, and it is pretty much simple to do that. It will be maybe open curve editor, and as usual we will use this neat trick to create a shortcut, store the handle to the curve editor, and it will have a curve editor. So what all of this doing is these are shortcuts which call in the item menu item builder, which like reduces the boilerplate code. There are a few methods, like they're pretty much similar, but there are a few few differences that for various usages. And this creates a root menu item which like this, and the create menu item creates these menu items. So we also want to save the handle to the curve editor, and in here we should handle the message, the item, a menu item click, and in here yeah, pretty much as before, we want to check if we got the message from our menu item, and in here we want to open our panel, our editor. I'm seeing the panels in same panel. So in here, as you can see, it has handles to various editors. So we have two options in here. We either store in a handle in here and call in this manually, or we can where we've been in here, yes, or we can save temporarily, of course, the reference to the curvature. I'm pretty sure that saving a reference would be fine in here. I have these saved as handles because maybe I was lazy, or maybe I was like in a good mood to like do it in the right way, but I'm pretty sure that it should be fine doing this. So we want, as usual, when we want to store the reference in the structure, we want to define its lifetime, because the compiler wants to know how long the object will last for. And then here we want to have something like this, and it will be curve editor window tick B, right? And here the same thing. So let's see if it compiles. We'll put a to do in here. To do. Nope, it doesn't. Of course, indeed it won't, because we want to as a reference to the curve editor, and it should compile now. Yes, and the barrel checker is happy. So let's now call our open function. Panels.curvature.open, and it wants the engine as the parameter. Okay. So the send message accepts the self by immutable reference. So we can like drop this, and we also can use the user interface directly here. So we don't want to like pass the entire engine to these functions. All we want to do is to send up some message, and that's enough. And here, in here, yep, that's easy. And in here, probably want to create a shortcut, not mutable, but engine user interface, just for simplicity. Do not write that chain over and over again. So in here, we dropped the high restriction on the type. I mean we are not passing the engine anymore. So now we can call the open, and also, as you can see, it has this as immutable reference to panels. We also want this to be immutable. There is no problem to have these immutable, because all they're doing is to send in a message to the UI. And in here, all we're doing is just copying a handle to a window and sending a message. We're not mutating anything, and we're fine with that. And in here, and put this one. So let's try it out. It should work fine, I'm pretty sure. So what it will be doing when we close the window, it will allow us to open it again. So we'll click OK, and we'll go in here and click Curvature. All right, it works. Cool. So we can also close it another way, and this way, and this way. I'm pretty sure that I messed up the order. I want this to be in here and this to be in here. So this can be easily fixed in just a few seconds. To do that, we can swap these two, and it should be fine. So now we should have OK at the left and cancel at the right. And yep, it's just easy. That's easy. So now we want this to like do some work. So by work I mean make the editor to modify some curve. So we want we need a command to do that. We need to store the result of our changes in a series of commands. So to be able to do an undo or redo, and I'm like, I really don't understand people who making editors when they are making the editor without the undo or redo functionality. That's like, that's bizarre. And we are now in like not a previous century. We're now in 21st century. Every editor should have the undo redo functionality. And to do that, it's pretty simple. The editor also already has a command. It's called like this, and it is in a macro because we want to store the references, basically the boxed. How it called, the boxed trade objects, and so we could store. So the main problem here is when we want to pass some context to the command, we want to pass it by reference, and we also want to pass multiple references to it, and when we pass in multiple references, we want them to be in maybe in a single container, and a single container is a structure, and when we store in the structure, when we store in the reference in the structure, we forced to define a lifetime, and Rust isn't not as smart enough, or maybe something like that. It can't. I can't tell it to that the object I want to pass will not outlive the execution, not an execution, but the objects around that call. So something like that. Maybe it was sounding confusing, but you should get the point. I hope. So back to our things. So where is that? Yes, the common trait is pretty simple. It has a name, execute, revert, and finalize. So the name says for itself. It's pretty much like returning the name of the command, the human readable name. Let me show you some command that written by hand, not a macro, something like that maybe. A move node command basically serves for one thing. When you move in an object in the editor using a gizmo, it like stores the new position of your object, or maybe a group of objects if you are moving the group of objects. So we want to have the similar thing for our curve editor, and in here maybe I should have been created a module, maybe a folder for that, but for simplicity and to not spend too much time, we'll create a command in here. So maybe yeah, probably we should call it like create, not the create, but modify curve, I think. Modify curve. Command. And what it will be doing, it will hold two values. And it will also implement the command trait, impl for modify command, implement. So what we want to do next is to populate those methods. So let's create the model for the curvature. I think the model for this will be, by model I mean the data model. The data model is a like maybe some of you know the model view controller pattern, when you have a model which basically holds the data, and the controller which receives the commands from user, and view which present you the result. The creates, maybe draws the UI for your data, and that's pretty much it. So basically everything in the editor uses the model view controller pattern. It's very common pattern. It's maybe 30 years old, or maybe even more, I don't know. So what we will have in this command, probably let's see what it should have. Let's see what is the curve. What is that thing? Nope, not in here, but in here. Yes. So the curve itself is data storage for keys, or maybe points, if you like, and each point could be of some kind, and it could be either constant, linear, or cubic. And cubic could also have those control points, not the control points, control handles. Let me just show you that in a second. Derive debug. I'll show you in the editor itself, because the widget is fully functional, so you can basically see what I mean. And so yep, add key, and another key, and another key. And in here, we can do it cubic. Like so. These could be also cubic. And yeah, these are handles. And you can basically define a cubic law of changing your value between two points. So it will have this dependency on this parameter, on the x parameter. So something like this. And what we want to what we want the editor to do is to modify some resource. And our resource will basically be a file that will store the curve. So to define a resource, a curve resource, we want to go in the engine, and where we want to store it, it's actually not a simple question, because the curve could be used for pretty much anything, and it could be used for animation. It could be used for particle systems. Not in the current state of the engine, because I didn't have a good editor, so I didn't implement that functionality. So that will probably be next, what we'll be doing. And in here, I'm pretty sure that the utils is fine, but maybe. Oh, right, we have a resource module. So in here we could just do this rs, rs, and in here pub mode curve, and we want to define a new resource. So we have a data model for a resource, and data model is the curve itself. So what we want to do now is to create a resource like we have for other resources in the engine. Currently, the engine have only three kind of resources. The sound buffer resource, which basically is sound data for sound sources in the engine. Just a second. It also has a model resource which holds a 3D model, and it also has a texture, basically the picture you want to apply to any model or something like that. So we want to do pretty much the same thing in here, but since the resources are all synchronous, so we want to be able to load all the resources asynchronously, to utilize all the available CPU power, like to minimize the loading times in your game. So every resource has a pretty huge wrapper on internals. So for internals, I mean, and yeah, there is a separate module for that. It is pretty much like small, but it does doing a lot of job. So every resource should have a name, of course, and state and error. An error, of course, can appear when we load in something, maybe a corrupted file, or maybe an old version of the file or something like that. And the state will hold the actual state of the resource. And in our case, it will be curve resource, maybe. I'm not sure if it. Yeah, I'm pretty fine with that. And an error will be. How it's called? Curve resource error. It will be empty for now. So as this parameter, as the state of the resource, we want it to be either the curve itself, or it also can be a separate structure that can hold additional data. And as every other resource, it should have at least one additional parameter, a path, the path through the data. And to do that, we will create another structure, curve resource state, and it will have a path, and in here it will have the curve itself. I'm not sure if it should be public. Yeah, let's do that public for now, and that will be curve itself. Curve. And this will be changed to this. So I'm pretty sure that that's it for now. It should be able to. It should be loadable through the resource manager, and let's see an example of model. What it does. It has a model data, model loader. This is defined in here. Yeah, it should be pretty much everything. Yep. So next thing, we want to go to resource manager and modify it to so it can load our curves. So to load curves, we want to have another resource container. Yeah, it also has right. I was wrong. There are four resources, four resource kinds in the engine right now. I forgot about shaders, right? Because they're in separate module in here. So this one should store the curves, and this one will be curve resource. All right. So we will do everything using the shaders as analogy for our future actions. So it will be basically mean that we'll be copy pasting some code, but it will be a tiny amount of code. I think, at least. I hope I remember everything correctly. And in here, yeah, we should create a loader function, a loader asynchronous function, which will be load curve resource. That will be curve resource. Curve resource. Yeah, and as you can see, it loads it from file. So we want basically to do the same thing. What does this thing? It creates, basically it loads a file, and yeah, it fills in some fields. We want the same thing for our curve. So let's do that. Curve resource state pub fn from file. And this should probably be generic, I think. Oh no, it can be just a path. And in here we want to accept path and to return result, either self or curve resource error. All right. And then here we want to like steal the code like from shader, because yeah, we want to load the file. And in here we want to use the IO module, which basically a wrapper for loading a file, either using the standard file system methods or using the WebAssembly fetch API. Basically, it's just a wrapper for a cross-platform file loading. So yes, and it should be asynchronous function, of course, because we have an await and so on. So what we've got in here, we've got a content. All right. So what we will do next is we will utilize the built-in functionality of the engine. It has a built-in serializer, and almost everything in the engine uses the built-in serializer to read and write files. So where is that? Yes, it's very simple. It's just a procedural proc macro which will generate the deserialization code for you. So the curve itself already has the code. So what we want to do in here, we want to create a visitor. It may sound confusing why called a visitor, why not serializer or something else. There were historic reasons for that. Like that's basically the name of the serializer from my previous full-time job in Larian Studios. They have a serializer called Visitor, and I was like, yeah, it's a good name, let's take it. And yeah, I was just like stuck with that name, and we see it in here, this name. Oh, and also I have a good news. We don't need to call this guy. We want to just pass the path to the little binary, because it is already an asynchronous function that loads a binary file from using the IO load file and doing a lot of job for us. What we will do in here is just call deserialization in here. How to call that? Just very simple. Visitor. No, not a visitor, but mutable curve default, and we want to call curve visit, and we want to have it in the first parameter is the name of the field. So what the visitor does, it creates a file with hierarchical structure. So basically it like creates a hierarchical representation of your data using a series of nested or recursive calls of the visit method. So basically, if you will check any visit implementation, I'm pretty sure I have some implementation made manually, so probably in maybe Sprite for simplicity. In here, oh no, it also. Let's see. A visit. Yes. So the visit implementation is very simple, but these pretty much boilerplate code, and you don't want to write it manually. This is legacy code, but it demonstrates the main concept. So when we start visiting a structure, we create a region with a name, and we just call in a visit on every field, and then live in a region. It's that simple. So basically, what it will do, it will call either a library function, an engine function, and it will continue calling the visit functions until it has anything to visit. So it will recursively call, and it will create a structure hierarchical structure that will be that will will show you the structure of your object, the serialized version of your object. To deserialize the object, we will call the wizard again, but the actual behavior of the wizard depends on the mode with which the wizard was created. So if you create it with load mode, it will deserialize objects. If it will be called with save mode, it will like serialize objects and allow you to save on disk or other data storage. So in here we want to just do this visitor, and also we want to do an error handling in here. So and as a last step, we want to pass the curve in here and pass in here, but we want the path to be an owned version of the path. So I don't care about this red marked widget. It just Rust analyzer. I think it's not good with prop macro. I think I should like find a switch to enable the prop macro expansion, but I didn't do this for now, and it should work fine. So we also want next to correctly handle the errors that may occur in here. So let's steal some code again. We'll be stealing from ourselves, so it's not a problem. So yeah, we want this one, this, because this implementation of from trait will allow us to do this, to call this question mark operator. So one part is done. We also want to store a wizard error that may occur if a version of file or structure of file has changed over time. It is not compatible anymore. So in here we want to so do something like this, maybe an error that may occur due to file due to version incompatibilities. Yes. So, and also we want yes, this one in here, and yeah, this parameter will be put in here by a proc macro by this error. And we also want to have an implementation of from wizard error and create a wizard error in here. So that should be pretty much it for the resource, I think, or at least the loading of it. So in here we should do this, right? And in here we should curve is loaded, and unable to load curve from blah blah blah, and in here it should be called curve, maybe just a maybe just a curve. And what it does on load, it checks whether the load was okay or some error occurred. So and in case of OK result, we want to commit the state of the resource, and we want it to be in OK state, of course. And that will be curve state. All right, and the other branch is for errors, and here we indicating that an error has occurred in the log, and in here we pass in a load error, so something like that. It's really simple. So what we will do next, again, we'll do a copy paste. I will leave that as a to-do for now, to not spend much time on some boring things. Rescue resource, and what we want to do in here. We want to find a resource, an existing resource first. Curve. I want to return curve resource. Right. And then here we want to create a curve resource. Curve resource. Using a resource in pending state. A pending state means that the resource is about to be loaded, and you have to wait until it's either be loaded or an error will occur during its load or something like that. So that's basically just a state machine that allows you to understand what's the state of your resource. And the next step should be the registration of the new resource instance. So we want to register the instance in the resource manager state. So in here we should just post, not a post, but replace this with load curve resource, and voila, it should work. But the resource manager also allows you to reload your resources at once, all at once, or maybe just shaders, or maybe just textures or something else, and that that requires you to write some other function. They're all pretty much the same, but there are some differences between them. And so there is pretty much no room to reduce the boilerplate code. Maybe there is, but I actually didn't spend much time on looking for opportunity to reduce the boilerplate code. So we leave that as a to-do, and it will be a reload curve resources and curves. Oops. Yeah. So what we want to do next is to reload all the curves. We want to collect the resources first and change their state to pending again. So the resource will change its state to pending, and it has to be reloaded again. All right. So this one basically utilizes the same code, the load curve resource and load curve resource. I also should mention that these two separate branches are for different architectures, which basically this one handles everything using the JavaScript promises, and I mean for WebAssembly, and this one uses the thread pool to to do the job asynchronously. All right, so in here we want to do the final step. All curve resources are reloaded, and maybe in here the R is missing too. or maybe we, where, I'm not a native speaker, so sorry. Sorry for that. Reload curve resources. Right. And what we want to do next? We want to do another boilerplate-ish work. So we want to provide an access to all curves. And that should be curve resource curve. And here another plus curves count pending resources, and then here plus count loaded resources, count loaded curves, and here another plus curves. Yeah, I definitely should look for opportunity to reduce the boilerplate code, because that's isn't too funny to change that every time that I need to add a new resource. And that will be curves, and that will be curves again. What's else? Yes, the serialization of resource manager. We want to wait until everything is loaded before we can actually serialize our resources. And in here, we want to save our curves. All right, let's check. Let's check if we have some error. I'm pretty sure we will have something. Let's see. Yep, indeed. All right, yeah, it's telling us that we are missing some import. I really like the errors that the compiler creates. Why so? Ah, right, because it should be great. It should be great. All right. And define new resource should be in where it should be actually. No. Great. Right, it has a confusing name. Asset, and yes. Let's see. All right, now it can't find the visitor. Use this. Great for visitor, prelude, and import everything from that. Let's see. Should be okay now. Nope, still something missing. All right, it should implement the resource trait, right? It should implement the resource data trait, right? That's okay. We'll do that in a second. Import resource data. We'll import that. Why it doesn't allow me to speak one? All right, let's pick one and change it after. So let's see what we'll do in here. We'll implement the basic trait for resource data, and all it does, it returns the path to data. I'm pretty sure that what it, oh yes, all it does, it returns path to data. So import resource data for curve resource data. Right, and that's pretty much simple to implement. We all we need to do is to borrow a path, and in here we should do this. Or maybe not. Let's find out what I have missed. Right, cow borrowed. All right. So, what else am missing? We also need to implement the debug grid, so it can show us the error message, correct error message on error. And also it says that the widget is not implemented, but it's to fix. And what else? The default is missing, right? That's not it. So let's see. It should compile now without... Oh, okay. We are still not finished. Wait, right. And now it has an unused import in here, but it is okay. It complains about missing documentation, but we will the to-dos for that. Do not spend the precious time on stream. I will do that upstream, and there is no problem in that. And this one tells me that there is no documentation for the module. All right. That will do. And what else? Core IO. Right. And let's nest these. Okay. And it goes here. All right. Something like that. And this can be deleted, I think. Alright, the prelude does not include the visit error. Let's add this. And let's see. Should work okay. Yep, but another function does not have a documentation. So, yeah, we basically just added a new resource in the engine in a like few, maybe like 10 or 20 minutes. I didn't start the timer, so what we will do next? We will go back to command in the editor, and we want to start modifying the resource in here. Okay, so to do that, we want to check how other commands work, so you can like have an idea of what we'll be doing and not be confused. So for example, let's see what let's find the simplest command but implemented by hand. Not at this macro because it hides a lot of stuff. I don't like this command because it has confusing all the new positions, but okay, that's so yeah. Basically what command does, it like accepts new state of the object or a property of the object and replaces it with a new value. So and it stores the previous value inside. So when you're executing something, it saves the previous value of a property inside of the command and replaces it with a new value. And when you undoing the command, it restores the value from old value to and puts it into the object, and it also remembers the previous value of the property. So I hope that makes sense to you. And what we will be doing next in our command, where is that? In here. We need to know what we will be modifying, and that pretty much the curve resource. Curve resource, right? So curve resource. We will store the curve resource in here, but I should mention that every resource in the engine can be shared in multiple places. So basically, what the resource is it is just where is it? Let me show you that real quick. What the resource is. Oh my god, where is it? Yeah, basically it's just an arc, which is a smart pointer, and inside it has a mutex, which allows us to modify the state inside a reference counted object, and we also can basically can share the object. It is copyable because if we can share the arc. All right, so in here we want to store the curve. Maybe we should call it the old curve. So it will store the data and the maybe you can call it a handle to resource, something like that. So in here, as a name, we want to return modify curve, maybe modify curve. All right, to owned, to return an owned version of the string, and in here, as we execute in the command, we want to basically swap the curves with what we have stored inside inside our command, and maybe it should be a curve, do not be confusing, and swap the value in the resource and with the value in here, and we will do that in a second. Impl modify curve command pub, not a pub, fn swap, and it will accept self as mutable because we will be swapping the values from one from resource and one from the command itself. So in here we want to, yeah, just the self will be enough. In here we want to at first get the old value. We'll call it the old curve, and the old curve will be stored is stored inside the resource. So it is can be like this state, and then here a state, or maybe not the state. We are interested in the data, so we will call the data ref, and we will clone, not the clone actually, we want maybe call the swap, the std mem swap, something like this, self curve, like this, not 7, 9%. Right, so what it will be doing, it will be swapping the curve on every call of the swap. So it will take this and put into this, and this will put into this. So it will be swapping it back and forth as we call the swap. So in here, in execute, we want this to call the swap. That's simple. We also don't want to don't need a context because we are not operating on scene. We are operating on the object itself. And basically the revert will do the same because we are swapping back and forth on the object, so that's all we want to do. So in here, the modify curve command, we need to call it, we need to like put in the command stack, we need to create this command at the moment when we have received the command from from the Curvature widget. All right. So I also noticed that I made a mistake in here, but you will probably not notice that, because I don't check what's the kind of the message. What's the kind of the message? And in here, I should actually be doing this. Button message click. This, and in here, I should be doing data, like so. So we are interested only in button messages in here, right? But in other branch, we are interested in curve editor message sync curve equals message data. So the data, what it does, it actually tries to downcast the value stored by a trade object, as a trade object in here. So it tries to cast it to a type we want that implements message data trade, and in here we are why it complains? Maybe ref. All right, let's specify the type manually. Curve editor message. If let sum, right? So we don't need that. So in here we are want to check if message destination equals ourself, but in this time we are interested in self curve editor, right? So as we have received that message, and yeah, one thing I should mention: when we are handling messages, we want to check the direction of message. Why? Because as I mentioned previously, there are two directions. One from UI as a response to your actions, and one as a request to UI. So to and from widgets. There are basically two kinds of messages. And then here we should check the direction. Message direction should be equal to from widget. So in here, what we are telling by this line, we are interested any message of curve editor message type that has come from curve editor, and yeah, it should be from that that widget, not that to widget, because we are not sending anything, we are listening to something. So in here we also should add another parameter in here, which will be called sender. I will explain that in a second. And that will be MPSC, which stands for Multiple Producer Single Consumer Queue. And this will be sending yet another message. And you will see what kind of message it will be. Sender, send, message, do scene command. Right. And scene command, new. And we will create modify curve command. Okay, so in here we want to specify the curve resource and our new value. So as a new value we can specify this. It actually creates a clone but it shouldn't be a problem actually, because yes, it creates another allocation, memory allocation, but it is pretty much a rare action, because when you are looking at the curve editor, you don't receive any messages, but you will receive a sync message only if you're modifying something, right? So this isn't a problem. So, but in here, as a resource, we want to create one just for tests, all right? So it is possible to create resources at runtime. You don't need to load a resource, because in our case, we don't have a resource to load. We simply don't have it because we are going to create one, right? So in here, we want to have a temporarily, just for sake of simplicity, temporary resource. Like it will be called curve resource, and it will be curve resource, not a resource error. Curve resource, right? So in here we want to create an instance of that resource. Curve resource, and it will be something like this. And curve resource state default. It is kind of long. Long string, but it's actually all right. So there is a few places when you need to create resources manually, and most of them are in the editor. So in here, what we want to do is to pass a resource state, right? Resource state, okay. We know that our resource is in correct state. It's just a default curve. So all it does, it creates a new curve resource and in okay state. So, and then here we can pass our curve resource, but we also need to clone it. But remember, again, we clone in just an shared pointer, so we don't clone in the resource contents, all right? So, and the left line should be unwrap. Excuse me for unwrap, but this can't fail. Okay, so this actually can't fail. So that's why I'm using unwrap. So I could use expect, but I know for sure that this won't fail, because it could fail only if the receiver is dead. So, but I know for sure that the receiver will be alive until the end of the editor, until it will be closed. So, as we added a new sender, let me explain why we did that. So, let's go in, let's actually try to compile it, and it will point out where we should add the new parameter. And I will look, oh, I see where I should add it, but let me explain why. And what's the kind of parameter it is. It takes quite a lot of time to compile the engine, because the editor uses the engine in release build, so it optimizes it so the editor will run faster than normal debug when everything was built in debug mode. So yeah, actually I can, no, I shouldn't do that, because it will point me the error. So and here you want to specify self message sender, right? So what's the message sender? What it does? It actually maybe the most confusing way of executing actions in your in your application. So this mechanism called message passing, right? So what it does, it has a queue of messages, and the engine or the editor processes the queue and pops the message one by one from the queue and processes those messages. So what the message is just the enumeration with desired action. So we are interested now in do sync command, and there are quite a lot of other actions like undo sync command, redo sync command, clear sync command stack, selection change, sync to model, blah 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 blah. And what it does, it defers the execution of the method to later. All right. So when we doing this line, we are telling the editor to do the action, but later, not in this place, because it doesn't make sense. We don't have a full context to do the action. We probably would face borrowing issues and so on and so forth. And so basically we defer the action for later, and it should be called somewhere in here, or maybe somewhere below. Yes, in here, in update. So what it does, it checks the queue at each frame and pops the messages out of it and handles them. So as you can see, we can pretty much see what the sync command does. It uses the command stack to do a command. So remember that we created a command in here, but it is executed in here. So the do command actually does a lot of job, but in short, it pushes the command on stack and executes it using the execute method. All right, so it will call the execute method. All right, so basically it will swap the contents of the resource with the new value. All right, so we can check that as we have received the message. We can basically check what's inside of it, right? But I'm not sure what is the best way to do that. But I'm pretty sure that the best way would be is to save the file. It's to save the curve to a file and load it again. Okay, so to do that, we need to save our curve in here in the OK handler, right? So what we want to do here is to basically take our curve resource and do a visit on it, all right? So, but there is a difference between resource and resource data, right? So the resource itself contains quite a lot of other stuff, or not a lot of stuff, not other stuff, but quite of useful stuff. We don't need to serialize the resource itself, but we want to serialize the data, right? So as you might remember, we have written this block of code, okay? And what it does, it actually loads the curve resource. It actually loads the curve resource state, not the resource itself. So what we want to do in here, we want to go to state. I also want to do a match over the state of the resource. It should be resource state OK. state, like this. Ignore the rest. What I'm missing here? All right, it's the mutex guard. All right, and then here we should make a reference. All right, so we got the access to the state of the resource. All right, so in here we should basically just call a visitor again. Nothing too special. So we want to create a visitor. Visitor again, which is serializer actually, but with confusing name. Visitor, just a new, right? So then here we want to state.visit, and in here we want to mimic this. Not a mimic, but just have the same name, basically. And here we want to pass the visitor as mutable. And in here, for simplicity, we'll call the unwrap to speed up things, all right? So, also, I should mention that it should be at the ref mutable, all right? Why the ref mutable? Because the visitor is a two-way serializer, right? So it depends on the state of the visitor itself. So it accepts everything by mutable reference, even if serializes it. So it actually won't modify anything if we have a visitor set up for writing for serialization. So what we want to do in here, we want to call how should be called a visitor safe binary, right? Safe binary. And for simplicity, to not spend too much time because I'm already out of my schedule, so we'll save it to like curve bin, right? And go unwrap. I will improve everything on next stream. There will be a next stream when I will create a file selector that will allow us to specify the path to the data, to the curve, right? So what do we want to do in here? Just basically call the save binary, all right? Or when we click on OK. So let's find out if it works. Let's see. Why? All right. Because I need to import the rate. Use rg3d core visitor prelude like this. All right, and it should be working. Yep. So let's find out, will it write or will it not? So let's see. Let's like create few keys. Change key to cubic, something like this, and press OK. There is no like notification if everything was okay, if done or something like that. I'm actually surprised why it didn't like put anything in the command stack. Probably there is some mistake here because it should call this one. The curvature, right, from widget is okay, right? So let's find out. Let's check whether it sends the sync or not. And and this is accept, and this accept like the path that accepts message, and there should be, yeah, send curve. All right, so it should send the curve back to me. So where is it called? Send curve, mouse up. So yeah, basically it should work. So let's find out why it does not working. Let's put a breakpoint in here and run it under debugger. It's very useful. I hope it will help us find out the reason of this behavior. Okay, I unpressed the button and it triggered. Okay, so it called the sender send dosing command, and we also want to go to here, right? In here. Right, yes, I see. It won't work until we have a scene. This is kinda bad, but we can deal with it. Just create a new scene, right? So now it should work okay, right? But again, we should do this. Yeah, you see? Now it sends the command, all right? So if we will try to undo, but now it, all right, okay, I got hit by my own decision. I did this as a model window, so I don't have access to these buttons or even the hotkeys to undo. So that was a mistake. So let's click OK. And what we want to do next, we want to temporarily check if we can load our curve. All right. So when we create a new window, we want to just temporarily check if we have our curve and try to load it. So in here we will call the resource manager for that. It should be the, okay, actually we need to extend this with a new parameter, resource manager, to be able to load resources. Resource request curve resource, and it will be curve.bin, and we also want to block until it loads. We don't want this to be async, but just load it. Let curve equals, and we want to just unwrap it. We don't care if this there is an error. It should be written, okay? So I might go to not this guy and here, and where's this rest engine, right? And what was the working directory? Stitch snippet, maybe. Yes, there is our curve bin, but it is binary file, so we won't open this. So, all right, as you can see, we have probably it will be all right. So now we can replace this, but I want to save this for future, so we will just do this, and we will see if the curve is okay. So we want to load it first and then create the curve editor using this curve. Okay, it accepts the curve, and in here we want it to run, and right, and as you can see in here, it accepts not a resource but just a data, which this should be cloned, not the resource but this one. And in here, we should pass another parameter, which is the engine resource manager. All right. Okay. So let's see if it compiles. No, there are a bunch of warnings. I will fix that off stream. No problem with that. So let's see if it loads. Nope. What's wrong? It says it can't find the file. That's okay. I know why this happens. This happens because we have saved the file to the station iapetus working directory. Okay. So we want this. We want to load the file only after we like fully configured the editor, right? So not on the constructor of this, but in a separate method, okay? But for the simplicity, we can do this. We can specify the path manually, and it will be Rust engine station iapetus. So let's see. That's just for simplicity, but it should work fine, I think. Let's find out. I hope I didn't mess up with slashes, so... Nope, still don't want to load. It says that it doesn't have the region code keys. Why so? That's an interesting... And internal goals. And curve, where is it called? Right, it called in here. Not in here. In here. Right. So. Okay, or maybe I'm saving it the wrong way. So, to load it. Ah, right. Right. When it loads, I need to save not the state again, but the curve inside of state. All right. And again, we need to resave the curve. That's okay. So we want to create the curve again and resave it. It should be fine. Oh, that was my mistake. So I apologize for that. Should be fine now. Okay. The same path, and we want to add key, and add another key, and here we should like do the same thing and press OK. So, and now we want to basically undo, and compile. And I hope, fingers crossed, that it will load. Let's find out. That's kind of interesting. Why I don't see my curve? That's very confusing. It loaded fine, but I don't see my curve, which is very strange. Maybe it's somewhere. Maybe I was just zoomed out. No. this created with curve. All right, let's see what's inside the curve. What's inside the resource? And to do that, we'll probably should just do a shortcut to spend less time on finding the correct value inside the deep hierarchy of the fields. Curve, maybe curve data, like so, and the curve will go in here. So let's find out. I'm kind of surprised that it didn't work. Right. It should be called. It should be called field data, right? I just said that, but didn't do that. Let's see. It's kind of confusing. Okay, and we are interested in curve data. Right, I know why it happens. It happened on the previous stream. That happens because dependencies are compiled in release mode. So let's do this. It will take some time to compile again the engine with all dependencies, but that's totally fine. Why it does this in the background? All right, that shouldn't take too much time. So what it should be looking like inside, it will be probably just keys. All right, so we are interested on these on this array of keys and the content of them and so on. So we will find out why it doesn't work. It should work because, like, why no? It loads okay without any error. So that's kinda mysterious. Taking some time to build, but that's totally fine. So and that's probably almost the end. I have an 8-core CPU, but it takes some time to build, especially from scratch when you have modifications in core library. When it happens, it rebuilds pretty much everything. So let's see, now it builds the Rusty editor. All right, that's what we want. Just a second more. Now it shouldn't have anything optimized away, so we can see the content of the curve data. Unfortunately, why it happens? Why I can see this but can't see this? Why are you doing to me? Why are you doing this to me? Oh my god. Data, value. Okay, there's this curve key. Alright, that's very surprising. Why? I do have access to these, but do not have access to these. This is very interesting. And why it has a 0? What the hell is going on here? Alright, let's find out. Let's put a breakpoint in here, and we will. Right. It's because we have created the new curve without a scene, and it didn't. What's happening? It built in debug, and it's so slow. Oh my god. Okay, so there is no actually a problem, I think. So let's Yes. Okay, and we should save. Okay, and reload. All right. Hooray! It's working. Now we have a somewhat functional curve editor. That's a success, I think. And unfortunately, that's probably the end of the stream for today, because there is a lot of stuff going on here on screen, and I'm a bit tired already. That's evening for me, and yeah. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you on the next stream. Bye bye.